This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's Smackdown time. This is the Moto X 2014 edition. This is the LG G3. Similar designs in some ways, both kind of curvy, both kind of big, both 4G LTE, large displays on board, and we're going to compare them now. So here we have two top Android phones that are in pretty much direct competition. Notice they're similar in size. That's something of a feat for the LG G3 because it has a 5.5-inch display versus the 5.2-inch display on our 2014 Moto X. If you're on Verizon or AT&T, you can get these direct from your carrier, both of these. If the LG G3 is available on every major carrier. With T-Mobile, if you want the Moto X 2014 edition, you'll have to buy it direct from Moto's website, which is no hardship. You get it unlocked with no bloatware. That's always a good thing. Sprint, sorry, you folks are out of luck. When it comes to the Moto X, there is no Moto X for Sprint at this time. So, both of these running Android 4.4 KitKat. Very different UI philosophy going on. But first, let's talk about the screens. I'm sure you can see it right here. AMOLED display on the Moto X. Very color saturated, very zingy. Even though neither of these has very high brightness for maximum brightness, both really are a little hard to see outdoors. Colors pop here. So for those of you who love Super AMOLED, those crazy better-than-life colors, you're going to like the Moto X 2014 a lot more. The LG has an IPS display, and its killer thing is that it's 2K resolution, 2560 by 1440 resolution versus Full HD 1920 by 1080 on our Moto X right here. So a lot more pixels, but the thing is, you know, okay, 538 pixel density here versus something in the 400s. The human eye really can't see the difference so much. So I think it's really more of a marketing thing than anything else. But with IPS, we do expect really good viewing angles. We do get true-to-life colors, although a lot of people describe the G3 as being a little bit muted on colors, and well, you know, perhaps it is. But notice the off-angle viewing. Usually IPS has wide viewing angles. As we go off-angle, the LG actually tends to disappear more than the AMOLED display on the Moto X. So you're going to have to look at the LG G3 pretty much direct on to get the best experience in terms of brightness. The color shift isn't that bad. It's the brightness shift that's really noticeable. When it comes to build quality, both of these are very solid, pretty hard to bend phones. Now, everybody's obsessed with bending phones thanks to the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, but they have very similar shapes. Right here you can see they both kind of have a half moon shape, which makes them comfortable to hold in hand. Now, that shape has become kind of a Motorola trademark. The Moto G, the Moto X, the Moto E, they all have that kind of shape right there. So you get the idea. Thickness is, well, pretty close on this. The Moto's a little bit thicker. There's got more of a pronounced curve on it. But what gets interesting is the materials, and I think this is going to be a selling point for some of you. You look at the LG G3, it's not a bad-looking phone. It's plastic that's been made to look like metal, other than the fact it's pretty shiny in certain light. You might believe it's metal at first blush. It's available in what they call black, which is really dark silver. That's what this one is, or gray, or white. And it's not a bad-looking phone. It's a cleanly designed modern phone. I think, especially from the front, it's nice, clean, no excess chrome anywhere. It looks okay. It's not super-duper fantastic, though. The Moto X 2014 edition obviously is the one for those of you who are into something that looks like a personal accessory. And phones really are, so I understand if that's important to you. You can get this in your choice of 17 different colors or 4 different wood finishes. This is ebony right here. And there are 4 different leathers you can choose in different colors, like a cognac color, there's a navy blue, there's a black. You get the idea. They all have this nice actual real metal surround on the edge, very classy looking. So, and you can also get different accent colors too. The accent color shows up around the dimple here for the Moto logo and on the front earpiece and speaker covers. So there you go. In terms of looks, obviously this is one of the chicer phones that's on the market right now. That's a big selling point. People do care about how a phone looks. Also, the curve on the edge of the glass looks pretty cool. Feels very nice. The one drawback here is that it does refract light a little bit. So outdoors it can actually make it a little bit harder to see. But it does look nice and it does feel nice. Now LG fights back with, well, how cool is this? Removable back. The Moto is a sealed unit. Sorry, no, you can't open it up. You can't access the battery, send it in for service, that sort of thing. It has LG's trademark rear buttons, and I'm okay with that. You get used to it after a while, but pull the back off and you have access to your battery. SIM card slot, and a micro SD card slot, another thing that the Moto X is lacking. So for those of you who really care about expandable storage, you carry big movie libraries, music, you take lots and lots of 4K video, it's going to make a difference to you. Also known as 3,000 milliamp battery, considerably higher capacity than our Moto X, which has a 2,300 milliamp battery. Granted, the display has a higher resolution and it's a little bit larger here, but still the LG G3 for average use is an Energizer Bunny. It just is pretty hard to kill. If you're playing games with it, if you're doing something that is a high drain activity that keeps the screen on, it is not an Energizer Bunny anymore. So for those of you who are hardcore gamers, less so, but still. So in favor of the LG G3, removable back, removable battery, micro SD card slot, 32 gigs of storage for our US carrier model, 3 gigs of RAM. Now the Moto X here has 2 gigs of RAM, but it also has a much more lightweight UI that's pretty close to just stock Android, so you could say it doesn't need so much memory. You can get it with 16 or 32 gigs of storage. So how about pricing? One of the things about the Moto X is a bit more affordable. It's $499 for the base 16 gig model, and that's with one of the resin or plastic color backs, not with wood or leather. That will add $25. Goes up to $550 if you want it with 32 gigs of storage, which brings it up to storage parity other than the expandability issue with the LG G3. The LG G3 it depends on carrier right now. AT&T is selling it for $579. Other carriers are selling it for $599. So if you're talking about the 32 gig option, you're talking about $30 to $50 difference in price. That's not that significant a price once you're talking over $500. So I wouldn't really say make your decision on price. And if you can't resist the really nice wooden leather backs, then you go up to $575 for the 32 gig model of this. Now software, this is going to be another important difference for you folks. Moto X, close to stock Android experience. In fact, the UI is. Motorola's customizations are only things that actually make it more useful. You can actually talk to the phone even when the screen is off. Wake it up and have it do things. You pretty much like Google Now commands, that sort of thing. You can ask it what your next appointment is, what the temperature is outside. You can dictate a text message. Pretty good stuff. So, and they also have things like, if looking at your calendar, if you're in a meeting, it can automatically silence the phone. You can have it be quiet at bedtime. Go into driving mode. If you have accurate GPS settings turned on and enabled, you can have it actually know that you're driving and do things like read messages to you aloud automatically, which might scare the bejesus out of you, but is pretty handy. LG is like Samsung. They just throw everything in the kitchen sink on here. They have their kind of customized icons. Now with both of these, you can put Nova Launcher or some third-party launcher on. For both of these, I prefer to do that because the icons are just humongous. The DPI scaling is a little bit weird on the Moto X 2014 edition. With this, I tend to like to do it just to get rid of some of the LG UI, even though they've lightened up a lot. You have split window feature, you have floating video player, you have the quick memo stuff, you have their customizations. Over here you can see to get to various wireless settings and more, which can be handy, and their quick memo and all that sort of thing. Here you have just very basic settings. And the difference in speed, well, you can guess. Now, this is also LG's UI. They have a little bit of inertia dampening going on here so you don't just flail through your icons. But in general, this is very fast, very lag-free, the Moto X 2014 edition. The LG G3 is not bad, but occasionally there is that bit of lag that you notice, especially if you've been using something as clean as the Moto X, or Nexus 5 for that matter. Both of these are running on the same Snapdragon 801 quad-core CPU, same clock speed, Adreno 330 graphics inside, so you're looking at the same horsepower inside. What else is the same? No, not really though. Funny how that works out. The camera, both of these on the back, they have 13 megapixel cameras, and they are Sony sensors, which is a very good sensor. Both of them have flashes. Now Moto goes for the ring flash that's around the camera lens. And that makes sense with a digital SLR more than it does with a smartphone, to be honest. It's a little bit maybe of a gimmick. And here we have the two-tone LED flash on our LG G3. LG has optical image stabilization. That means if your hands are jittery, that's okay. It also means it can use slower shutter speeds, let more light in. So there's an advantage right there. The other thing is the software on it. I don't mean the UI on the software. I mean, both of these have okay camera UIs. And here's our LG camera UI. Pretty typical stuff, access to settings, modes. You can switch the front and back camera. You can switch the front and back camera just by flipping up and down too. The UI is fine on this. Obvious place to press to take a video or take a picture. I'm talking about the software image processing though. It's much better on the LG. This is one of the better Android camera phones on the market. It takes really great outdoor pictures in good lighting, and it's very good in low lighting too. I really enjoy the camera on this. If mobile photography is important to you, keep that in mind. Now Motorola, they have a pretty nice camera UI here on their phone, and it's very simple at first. It's just letting us know it's auto HDR mode on, and it's just going to use HDR, swap your camera, switch to video mode. You actually tap to take a picture. Now you can also enable tap to focus too, so it's a little bit different. And you swipe in from the side to get to the circular wheel of settings. For example, HDR mode, control your flash, set the resolution. Now if you're using full resolution 13 megapixels, it's going to be 4:3 aspect ratio. By default, it's set to 10 megapixel, which is 16:9 widescreen, so you're dropping in resolution. The problem with this is low light photography particularly is not as good. You're going to see more noise, less detail, sometimes a little bit of odd color shifts. Outdoors in daylight, the Moto X does a pretty good job. Still not quite as good, but I think pictures that most people would enjoy, so it's really the problem. Now video recording on both of these, quite good. 1080p and 4K is an option for both of these, so they're closer to being on even footing. And we'll splice in a photo and take it in low light so you can see the difference for yourself. So how about speakers and what the video looks like when it's playing back? So here's myself, obviously, with a review of the Amazon Fire HD6, and the front-facing speaker on the Moto X is really amazing. It's very loud. It may be mono, rich, full, very, very loud, and Super AMOLED, nice colors. So let's take a look and take a listen too. I'm going to look at the most affordable Amazon Fire tablet yet. This is the Fire HD6, $99 starting price. We're going to look. So it looks pretty nice, sounds pretty nice. The color saturation is pretty good on it. Let's take a look at the LG G3 and give it a listen now. Review. I'm going to look at the most affordable Amazon Fire tablet yet. This is the Fire HD6, $99 starting price. We're going to look at it now. Now with this, you certainly get plenty of sharpness and clarity. It's a very high resolution display, higher actually than the video format supported. The color saturation, not quite as high. The speaker is the real difference here. This sounds just kind of thin and tinny and not as loud. When it comes to everything else, both have 4G LTE, they have dual band Wi-Fi, 802.11 AC, Bluetooth, NFC, 2 megapixel front-facing cameras. They're pretty much par for the course on that. So in the end, what it comes down to is how important are looks to you. If you really like the customizable backs on the Moto X 2014 edition, the metal around the edges, then obviously that's a strong selling point. Do you like Super AMOLED or do you prefer IPS? That's going to be another strong selling point. If you like the vibrant colors on the Moto X, better than life sometimes, well, that's that. And for the LG G3, it's actually better color accuracy and obviously extreme sharpness because of the crazy high pixel density. Lastly, there's the software customizations. With the Moto X, you get pretty much a pure Android experience, no frills, up to you to customize it. LG has lots of software on board. Some of you may actually like that, like the multitasking with the multi-windows, that sort of thing. But the LG has knock on, knock off. Tap the screen twice to wake it up and tap it twice to put it to sleep. With the Moto X, of course, it has the neat sensors, so even if the phone is off, it knows if you're waving your hand over it, so you don't even have to tap it to wake it. And then you can just do a swipe to unlock it. If there's any notifications you can see. So they both have some convenience features there, but obviously LG goes a little bit more over the top like Samsung with some of their software features. Hence it has another gig of RAM just to make sure it can handle all that. Lastly, there's the camera. If you're a serious camera person, you're going to want the LG G3. It's one of the nicer cameras that you'll find on Android phone. If it's not as important to you and you take mostly pictures in well-lit environments, not your living room at night with just a couple of lamps turned on, then the Moto X 2014 edition will do the job, and who knows, maybe even Motorola will come up with something, some software updates to improve the camera. Obviously the hardware is pretty good on it. So that's the Moto X 2014 edition versus the LG G3. Unless you're on Sprint, they're probably both available for you. Sorry, Sprint people. I don't know what's going on with the Moto X and Sprint right now, but as you can see, they have a lot in common, but some important differences. Clearly, the specs on the LG G3 a little bit higher end, but the looks, and if you like that Super AMOLED display, and the unlocked edition especially too, then the Moto X has its appeal. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our video reviews of each of these phones, read our written reviews, and hit that like button.